All right. Sorry for the delay in getting back to this project, but we were starting Flappy Bird, which is very similar to. It's not too dissimilar to like Frogger or other games like that, where things spawn at you and come at you. In this case, you just kind of avoid them. It's not really scrolling, but it kind of looks like it. So the project where we were at was here. We had a score. We had a sort of bird, and then we had, we're going to have to make pipes that come at you. I don't know if I've got the pictures open anymore. I don't remember where I saved those. So anyway, we have to make a pipe. So we'll start with that. We have a player, which was an object. And that object had X position, a Y position. Keep in mind that the X position and the Y position represent the location of the of the upper left-hand corner of the player. So the X position represents how far from the left you are, and how Y is how far from the top. So that gives you the upper left-hand corner as a position, and then you just specify the width and then the height. So when we build the pipes, the position of the bird, the player, remember, is going to be the upper left-hand corner. And when we check to see if there's a collision, we basically have to check to see if any of the corners of the bird have been embedded into a pipe. Then we know the bird has hit a pipe. So we need to check the corners, not just the position. The position of the bird is just the upper left-hand corner. So we'll have to check the upper right, the lower left, and the lower right. Alright, so we're going to make objects for the pipes, just as we have an object for the player. The player has a Y velocity. We won't need that because the pipes don't fall, but we will need an X velocity because the pipes do move to the left, so we'll need a negative X velocity for the pipes. We will need a draw command, draw method, which is a function which basically says how to draw the player, and later how to draw the pipes. We'll also need a move method, which is how to move the player or the pipe, the object. We don't need to log this anymore. Here's the main draw function. It basically just draws the sky, clears everything, makes a light blue rectangle over the whole canvas, the whole width and height of the canvas from 0, 0, the upper left. We then draw the player, and then we put the score on the screen. If you press the space key, the Y velocity of the player turns to -4, which is how we're achieving our jump. And then the main function basically just moves the player, draws everything, and that gets run every 10 milliseconds. So it just keeps looping, update, draw, update, draw. Okay, so we need to make a class of objects called the pipes. So I'm going to come up to the top here, maybe below the players, and I'm going to make a class called pipe, and then you do curly brackets. So before I could make a single object with just curly brackets, and then I could set the attributes of that object, and I can assign methods or functions for that object. Now I want to create not just one object, I want to create a lot of objects of the same type. So I'm going to create what's called an object class, called the pipe, and that way I can make lots of what's called instances of the class pipe. So when you make an instance of a class, that's called instantiation. You're said to instantiate a pipe. It's basically like cloning in Scratch. You create a main sprite and then you can create clones of it. So we're going to create a pipe object, a pipe class. When you create a class like this, you need a constructor method, which basically says when you make a new pipe, what happens? And we just need the pipe needs an X position, so to give the thing itself from within its own specification, an attribute, you refer to itself as this. In the language Python, it's usually self, but in JavaScript, it's this. So we're going to say this.x equals, and we'll put a starting x, start x, start y. Yeah, and there we go. We also need well, that'll be it for now. We can later specify different things. Well, let's put in a a height. So this is the half height, and we're going to call by putting equals here, we're saying what the half height is by default, and I'm going to say it's 150. So if you don't specify anything, it'll be 150 by default, but if you do specify it when you create a new pipe, you can change that. But let's say this dot x will be, so let me get to a drawing. I sort of lost my old drawing, at least I don't know where it's at. So here, let's say this is our screen. We want to make a pipe that looks kind of like this, and something like this. So the x coordinate will be where the pipe is. I guess that'll kind of be the left side of the pipe. Remember, x is how far from the left you are. So we're going to have an x coordinate. We're going to have a width, which I think was going to be 100, if I remember correctly from a couple weeks ago. And then the half height will be, so if I make it 150, that means altogether it's going to be 300. So we need a y position for this gap in the pipe. The y position will be not where the gap is, but the gap will start, a half height above and it'll end a half height below. And we just need to make sure that we're not 150, with at least 150 pixels from each edge. And then we can create a pipe that way. The pipe's vertical, horizontal position will be, actually we'll probably align it like so. So the pipe will, that position will move left steadily, but the y position of the gap will stay as it is. And then we'll have another one, maybe it looks like this, that's coming in, so they kind of come in from the side, and the bird has to navigate these gaps. When the bird clears a pipe, we score it, and when a pipe is fully off screen, we will delete it. So we don't just need one pipe, we need multiple pipes. So the strategy here is that, well, let me finish specifying the pipe, then I'll explain that part of it. So the constructor method of the pipe, we need an x position, and that's going to be all the way to the right. So the whole canvas.width, that's the x position. So it starts to the right. It needs a vx speed, which we're going to say is -1. Actually, I'm going to say it's going to be called pipe speed. So it's kind of a variable. And I'm going to control the pipe speed is already set, so that's good. And that's going to be a -1. So its vertical or its horizontal speed will be set to that, and if you want to change it in the game, you can tweak that here. It looks like the gap width and the gap height are already specified, and gravity is already specified. So all of the variables of the game can kind of be tweaked here. So we'll use those in our specification of the constructor method. This dot y is going to be a math.random. Math.random gives us a random number I'll try to explain that. Let's say we've got a number line, and this is 0 and 1. So math.random gives us a random decimal between 0 and 1. It might be 0, it won't be 1. It could be 0.999897119. You know, it's a really long decimal. It's sort of randomly in this range. If I want a random number between, let's say, 1 and 5, whatever that is, then I can take that random decimal and just multiply it by 5. And if I multiply this thing by 5, it stretches that decimal times 5. So if it was 0, it stays at 0. If it was 1, it turns into 5. If it was a half, it turns into 2.5. If it was a quarter, it turns into a quarter of 5. I don't know, 275. So it just maps everything to 5 times bigger. So that's how I can do that. So I want to create a sort of a random number between 0 and, well, actually not 0, right? Because if it's 0, then the half height up and half height down will create a gap that's too high. So I want it to at least be 150. Actually, I want it to be, more, let's say, at least 50 pixels from the top. So I want a number from 50 to, and I forget how tall my canvas height is. I'll call that CH here. I want it ranging from 50 pixels to, remember this is the top of the gap. Oh, I'm sorry, the middle of the gap. So I want it to go 200 pixels away from, oops, the top of from the canvas height. So from 50 to whatever 200 less than the canvas height is. That's what I want. So what is the length of that? Well, it's the canvas height minus 250. So that's the full range. So if I do math.random times a number, so before I did times 5, and I could make that thing 5 wide, that random variable could be anywhere from 0 to 5, so there's 5 units in there. If I take the canvas height minus 250, that means I have a range from, I have a variation of that much. I want it to not, at minimum, so if this is 0, if this comes out to be 0, I want it to at least start at 50. So I'm going to do something like this. And that should give me, this is my function, basically, for where I want the gap height to be, this bar here. It is at least, well, that's not quite right. We want it to be more than that, so add 50. It's more than that, I'm sorry. So so it's not just 1/2. So let me try that again. So we want to be subtract a half height. We actually want to subtract 2 half heights, and then also an additional 50 for kind of like a buffer area. And then this should be 50 plus a half height, I guess, should be the base. Does that make sense? I think so. So really what we want is a half height plus, oops, and then this should be minus 50 minus 2 times the half height. Something like that. So I take the full length. Is it, no, it's both 50s, so I need 100 here. Twice the half height. Let me think about that. So we want this number to be at least 50 down, and then you add a half height to that. So that should be 50 and a half height. And then it shouldn't go any further than 50 and a half height shy. So the full range should be the canvas height minus 50 and a half height twice for the top and bottom. And then the starting point should be 50 and a half height off of 0. So yeah, this is correct. So let's put that in. So the Y position will be, we'll say 50 plus, I forget what we call this, gap half height. Plus math.random times canvas.height minus twice 50 and gap half height. So that should give us a random Y value. That should be good. And what else do we need for the pipe? I guess the width. I think that's okay. We'll just leave it like that. Okay, so that's the constructor method. Every time you make a pipe, it'll give it an X and a Y and a speed. And that should be good. We now need a move method. So every time the program loops, not only should the player move, but the pipe should move. So we'll just say this dot x plus equals this dot vx, and that's it. We do want to check to see if we are off the screen. If this dot x is greater than, I'm sorry, is less than or equal to whatever the gap width is. Let's see what I call that up here. Gap width. Negative version of gap width. So if you're, like so, if you're full width to the left and so the pipe is off the screen, that should be the end of it. We might actually put that check somewhere else. Actually, I'm not going to put that check here. And anything else? I think that's good for move. So then, what else? Move, draw. We need a draw method. So to draw, that's pretty simple. It's going to be very similar to the player. C dot begin path. C dot rectangle. We're going to go from 0, 0. So the up. No, I'm sorry. This dot x. The height will be 0. The width will be gap width, and the height will be this dot y minus gap half height. That'll be the first rectangle. Fill style equals green. C dot fill. That's the top part of the pipe. And then we need a bottom part of the pipe, which will be similar. This time we'll say that it starts at this dot y plus gap half height, and it will be a width, and it'll go down to the bottom, so it'll go to the canvas dot height. And there we go. That should make a pipe. So that specifies the class of pipe. We haven't created any pipes, we've just specified what the class of the pipe is. So to make a pipe, so the way we want to do this is not handle each pipe individually like we do the player. Notice we say player.draw. I don't want to have to give a name to every pipe and code it by hand. So what I'm going to do is create a list of pipes. Let pipes equal an array. And we will add pipes to the array and draw every pipe that's in the array. So I don't have to know how many pipes are in there. There could be no pipes in there. But for however many pipes are in there, we want to draw the pipes. So let's say draw pipes. We're going to say for pipe of pipes, draw a pipe.draw. Wow, a lot of typos. Okay, so every pipe gets drawn. Good. That's all we got to do. And then we have to figure out the main function. We have player.move. Now we need pipe.move. So for pipe of pipes, pipe.move. So we'll move each pipe. But then now here's where we want to check to see if a pipe is past the screen, and we want to increase the score. So if pipe dot, well, okay, so the way we're going to do this is we're going to recreate the list every time. So we're cycling through all the pipes. I'm going to create a new list, so let new pipes equals an empty list. And then if the pipe dot x is greater than the negative value of gap width, we will say we'll add that pipe to the new list, so it doesn't get deleted. Anything that doesn't make the new list gets basically deleted. There we go. Else we'll say score plus plus, so you increase your score if the pipe is off the screen. The last thing we need to do is check to see if after the pipes move, we're going to check to see if the bird is hitting any of the pipes. So we'll say so if we'll say, well, we'll come back to that actually. I'll put in a little comment here. Check for bird in pipe. So we need a way to lose. But let's just see if this is working. All right, so that should be pretty good. We don't have any pipes, so if I run this, nothing should really change. Let's put a pipe at the start. So I'll say pipes.push new pipe, and we'll start at can.width. And the y doesn't need to be specified, does it? I'm going to take that out of my start y. Actually, I don't really need the start x either, so I can just do this. I can just say new pipe. So there's my pipe. Let's try that over here. Alright, that's a huge gap. Nice and easy. Let's see if we get a score when the pipe passes off the screen. Okay. I see. I gotta delete the pipe. Alright, so in the main function, we need to replace pipe with new pipes. So once we cycle through all the pipes, we only add the pipe to the list again if it's still on the screen. If it's off the screen, we skip that step, so it's basically deleted. Let's try that again. Let's see if we still got that issue. We do. Okay. Let's see, for pipe of pipe, oh, I need to say pipes. There we go. Perfect. Okay, so instead of a pipe coming right at the beginning because I said so, let's create another set interval. And we will call this a function. And this will happen every second, or maybe every, yeah, let's try every second. And that will just be pipes.push new pipe. And that's it. Let's give that a shot. So there's no pipe at the start. Here comes a new pipe. Okay, we gotta wait a little bit longer. Let's try 3 seconds. Not bad. There we go. So you score, you got pipes, it's not too hard. That's pretty good. So I guess in the next one I will just simply make it so that you can actually hit a pipe and lose, or you lose by falling off the ground. I'm kind of invincible here. I can hit pipes, I can pass through pipes. So we'll fix that, but it's starting to work. So we'll do that in the next one.